Dinner time, Genesis 22. And it came to be after these events that Elohim tried Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Take your son now, your only son, Yitzhak, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as an ascending offering on one of the mountains which I command you. And Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Yitzhak his son. And he split the wood for the ascending offering and arose and went to the place which Elohim had commanded him. And on the 3rd day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place from a distance. So Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, while the boy and I go over there and worship and come back to you. And Abraham took the wood of the ascending offering and laid it on Yitzhak his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. And Yitzhak spoke to Abraham his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, See, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for an ascending offering? And Abraham said, My son, Elohim does provide for himself the lamb for an ascending offering. And the 2 of them went together. And that was definitely a very prophetic word that came from Abraham that day. Elohim does provide for himself the lamb. Hallelujah. Verse 9. And they came to the place which Elohim had commanded him, and Abraham built a slaughter place there, and placed the wood in order, and he bound Yitzhak his son, and laid him on the slaughter place upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. But the messenger of Jehovah called to him from heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the boy, nor touch him. For now I know that you fear Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and saw behind him a ram caught in a bush by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for an ascending offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Jehovah Yireh, as it is today to this day, as it is said to this day. I believe we know this word as Jehovah Jireh. Jehovah Yireh. On the mountain, Jehovah provided. And the messenger of Jehovah called to Abraham a second time from the heavens, and said, By myself I have sworn, declares Jehovah, because you have done this, and have not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly bless you, and I shall certainly increase your seed as the stars of the heavens, and as the sand which is on the seashore, and let your seed possess the gate of their enemies. And in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. Then Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beer Ersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beer Ersheba. And it came to be after these events that it was reported to Abraham, saying, See, Milcah too was born children to your brother Nahor. Utz's firstborn, and Utz's firstborn, and Buz's brother, and Kemuel, the father of Aram, and Kesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Yidlaf, and Bethuel. And Bethuel brought forth Ribkah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Reuvma, also bore Tebah, and Gaham, and Tahash, and Maacah. And Sarah lived 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham rose from beside his dead and among to his sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a sojourner among you. Give me property for a burial site among you, so that I bury my dead from my presence. And the son of Heth answered Abraham, saying, Hear us, my master. You are a prince of Elohim among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of all our burial sites. None of us withholds from you his burial site from burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke to them, saying, If it is your desire that I bury my dead, from my presence hear me and approach Ephron, son of Sahar, for me, and let me have the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me for the complete amount of silver as property for a burial site among you. And Ephron dwelt among the sons of Heth. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth, all who entered at the gate of his city, saying, No, my master, listen to me. I shall give you the field and the cave that is in it. I shall give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I shall give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land. And he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, If only you would hear me, I shall give the amount of silver for the field. Take it from me and let me bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My master, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. Thus the field of Ephron, which is in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave, which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of the city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Thus the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial site. And Abraham was old, advanced in years, and Jehovah had blessed Abraham in every way. And Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, Please put your hand under my thigh, so that I make you swear by Jehovah, the Elohim of the heavens and the Elohim of the earth, that you do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell, but to go to my land and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Yitzhak. And the servant said to him, What if the woman refuses to follow me to this land? Do I then take your son back to the land from which you came?" And Abraham said to him, "Beware lest you take my son back there. Jehovah, Elohim of the heavens, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my relatives, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, 'To your seed I give this land,' he sends his messenger before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman refuses to follow you, then you shall be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there." Then the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. And the servant took 10 of his master's camels and left. For all his master's good gifts were in his hand, and he arose and went to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel down outside the city by a fountain of water at evening time, the time when women go to draw water. And he said to Jehovah, "Elohim of my master Abraham, please cause her to meet before me this day, and show loving commitment to my master Abraham. See, I am standing here by the fountain of water, and the daughter of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, 'Please let down your jar to let me drink,' and she says, 'Drink and let me water your camels too,' let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Yitzhak. And let me know this, that you have shown loving commitment to my master." And it came to be, before he had ended speaking, that see, Ribkah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her jar on her shoulder. And the young woman was very good-looking, a maiden, no man having known her. And she went down to the fountain, filled her jar, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please let me drink a little water from your jar." And she said, "Drink, my master." And she hurried and let her jar down to her hand and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "Let me draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking." And she hurried and emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the fountain to draw water, and drew for all his camels. And watching her, the man remained silent in order to know whether Jehovah had prospered his way or not. And it came to be, when the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden nose ring weighing 1/2 shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrists weighing 10 shekels of gold, and said, "Whose daughter are you? Please inform me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" And she said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor." And she said to him, "We have both straw and fodder, enough and room to spend the night." And the man bowed down his head and worshipped Jehovah. And he said, "Blessed be Jehovah, Elohim of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his loving commitment and his truth toward my master. As for me, being on the way, Jehovah led me to the house of my master's brothers." Then the young women ran and informed those of her mother's house these matters. And Ribkah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man to the fountain. And it came to be, when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist, And when he heard the words of his sister Ribkah saying, "Thus the man spoke to me," that he went to the man and saw him standing by the camels at the fountain. And he said, "Come in, O blessed of Jehovah. Why do you stand outside? I myself have prepared the house and a place for the camels." So the man came into the house while he unloaded the camels and provided straw and fodder for the camels, and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him, and set food before him to eat. But he said, "Let me not eat until I have spoken my word." And he said, "Speak on." And he said, "I am Abraham's servant, and Jehovah has blessed my master exceedingly, and he has become great. And he has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold, and male and female servants and camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and he has given to him all that he has. And my master made me swear, saying, 'Do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but go to my father's house and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son.' And I said to my master, 'What if the woman does not follow me?' But he said to me, 'Jehovah, before whom I walk, sends his messenger with you, and shall prosper your way, and you shall take a wife for my son, from my relatives, and from my father's house. Then when you go to my relatives, you are to be released from my oath. And if they do not give her to you, then you are released from my oath.' And this day I came to the fountain and said, 'Jehovah, Elohim of my master Abraham, please, if you are prospering the way in which I am going. See, I am standing by the fountain of water, and when the young woman comes to draw water, and I say to her, "Please give me a little water from your jar to drink," and she says to me, "Drink, and let me draw for your camels too," let her be the woman whom Jehovah has appointed for my master's son." I had not yet ended speaking in my heart. Then see, Ribkah was coming out with her jar on her shoulder. And she went down to the fountain and drew water, and I said to her, "Please let me drink." And she hurried and let her jar down from her shoulder and said, "Drink, and let me water your camels too." So I drank, and she watered the camels. And I asked her and said, "Whose daughter are you?" And she said, "The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him." Then I put the nose ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrist, and I bowed my head and worshipped Jehovah, and blessed Jehovah, Elohim of my master Abraham, who had led me in the true way to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. And now, if you are going to show loving commitment and truth to my master, let me know, and if not, let me know, so that I turn to the right or to the left." And Laban answered Bethuel too and said, "The matter comes from Jehovah. We are not able to speak to you either evil or good. See, Ribkah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as Jehovah has spoken." And it came to be, when Abraham's servant heard their words, that he bowed himself towards the earth before Jehovah. And the servant brought out ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold and garments and gave them to Ribkah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother. And he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night. Then they arose in the morning. When they arose in the morning, he said, "Let me go to my master." But her brother and her mother said, "Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10, then you go." And he said to them, "Do not delay me, since Jehovah has prospered my way. Let me go so that I go to my master." And they said, "Let us call the young woman and ask her." So they called Ribkah and said to her, "Are you going with this man?" And she said, "I shall go." So they let Ribkah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And they blessed Ribkah and said to her, "Let our sister become the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and let your seed possess the gates of those who hate them." And Ribkah and her young women arose, and they rode on the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Ribkah and left. And Yitzhak came from the way of Be'er Lahai Roi, for he dwelt in the south. And Yitzhak went out to meditate in the field in the evening. And he lifted his eyes and looked and saw the camels coming. And Ribkah lifted her eyes, and when she saw Yitzhak, she dismounted from her camel. And she had said to the servant, "Who is this man walking in the field to meet us?" And the servant said, "It is my master." And she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Yitzhak all the matters he had done. And Yitzhak brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. And he took Ribkah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus Yitzhak was comforted after his mother's death.